Hey, let me bring on my next guest. I'm excited about Mindy. Mindy Caliguire is the founder of. Hey, Mindy. Mindy
Hey,
Caliguire
Jeff.
is founder of soulcare.com. Former with Willow Creek, former Willow Creek Network. Willow Creek. What's the WCE? What's the word I'm looking for?
It used to be the Willow Creek Association,
Association.
WCA, and
Yeah, I'd
now
say.
it's the Global Leadership Network, GLN.
GLS, that's right. And so with former with the Willow Creek GLA, and honestly, probably one of her. It was, actually, Eric Sampson was on little while ago, and I was Eric Swanson, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, oh. Mindy and you two are probably some of the oldest supporters, not age lengthwise, the longest supporters that
We
we've
could
had.
probably qualify for both.
I've got my my little tip for what's coming. I've got my parents coming up in an hour. My
That's
mom and dad
awesome.
are both coming on the stream. My dad, I've never gotten my dad on camera on stream ever. Like this is a
It's a
watershed
big
moment.
day. It's a big
Big
day.
day. So man, excited. Mindy, thanks for coming on here a little bit just to kick it off. Talk to us a little bit about soul care, and the work that you're doing in that space.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know a little bit about my own story, and hey, guys, it's good to be with you all on Giving Tuesday. Um, Soul care really came out of a season of really a lot of dark pain and brokenness for me when my husband and I were planting a church in Boston, Massachusetts, in the 90s, so 100 years ago. And during that time, I really began to implode physically and ask God a lot of questions about all that. And a lot of it really had to do with some pretty severe burnout that I was oblivious to. And I didn't realize that was what was going on. I had no language for that. And really just ignored every symptom that my soul was very much saved, but not well. And we didn't have ways to talk about that then. And so I um, went on a very unexpected, unintended, but very grace filled journey to learn how to take care of my soul, not as a thing to do when everything else was done, but as a first order priority. And the rest of my life really has, and ministry has unfolded from that place of stillness, of resting in God, of learning how to live from a healthy soul. So that soulcare.com, we had created some journaling resources and I was selling them into bookstores, and I snagged the URL back in the day, Jeff. 1998 was when I got the URL for soulcare.com. Had some really smart technology friends that were part of our community, and all I knew to do was who to listen to. And they said, you should register that domain name. And I said, why? What is that? And yeah, so funny now. But yeah, so soulcare.com has been around since then, but it hasn't been my full-time work until really the last about 2.5 years, almost three. And so soulcare.com now exists as a almost like an oasis on the web, a place where people can go and receive resourcing, engage with relationships, um, all different ways, a global online community, ways that people can connect um, with the message and with resources to help them care for their souls in the midst of what they're doing. And you know my passion around this, and you know as well the deep conviction I have about how important this topic is right now in the history of the church. And leaders, especially, are struggling. It's a hard time to be human. And so, how do we come alongside leaders in ways not only for their own souls' sake, but also for their organizations? Because there's a lot at stake right now. There's just a lot at stake in personal lives, in families, in organizations. And if we really believe how committed we are or should be to the things we're called to, um, the care of the soul can't just be a little side conversation. It needs to take a first order priority right now, in
Yeah.
my view. Yeah. So anyway, that's soulcare.com. That's what we do.
Definitely. And, I want to get into some of the details of soulcare.com and,
Yeah,
digitally caring in some of that. Like I
yeah.
want, we'll get into that a little bit, but I know I had you on the live streamer podcast a while back. You had just, maybe 6 months ago, you had just come out with your book like in September.
Yes, it came out in
H-
September. So
how's
fun.
that going?
It's been forever since I released a book, like over 10 years. And it's been fun. I can show you this is what it looks like. It's called Ignite Your Soul. And it's going really well, Jeff. Like we're hearing about organizations that are picking this up for their boards of directors as gifts over the holidays to give to their staff. It's like a simple, easy, accessible way to start a conversation about how important the care of the soul is, especially for those in leadership and in ministry. So it's been fun. People send me like text messages where they resonate with a particular part of the book or whatever, or tell me a story through our online community. Somebody wrote me this beautiful long thing. We had an online book club there, and she wrote a story that connected into her own life from the book. So we're just seeing lots of great fruit. And God willing, it's just the beginning. I kind of feel like I'd love for 2025 to start to be the year of the soul. Like it's time people need to take this seriously. And, this is starting to, I'm getting invited to come do sermon series at churches. Like people are starting to go, okay, we're past the pandemic. We're past sort of broad awareness of some of the things that are hard, and it's still really hard. And we need to figure out what is our way of life with God that will allow us to flourish personally and the callings that are on our lives to actually be achieved. Because both matter. They really do. Sometimes we pit those two things against one another, and that's a huge core value of soul care is that this is about integration. This is not about splitting apart the priority of missional things like church planting or evangelism or missions or whatever, and the care of the soul. Those two have been pitted against each other for way too
Yeah.
long. And yeah, so anyway, yeah, the book is going well. Thanks for asking. If
Yeah.
you haven't yet, you may have already done this. I'm learning that all the algorithms that decide what gets recommended on digital platforms are driven by recommendations
Yeah.
on Amazon. So those reviews, those recommendations, it's a big deal.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll do that. If it's Google, or not Google, Amazon Soul Care, I have not. I will. I review some
Please,
books.
please,
I
please.
know I did. I like the
Yes.
book. I did. I read it. But I'll do a review for you. I promise. But
Thank you.
find the book, Ignite Your Soul on Amazon.
Yeah.
She is incredible and very wise in this space.
Mm.
Now, I'm gonna be. Let's pivot here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I met Mindy through a friend. Jason Morris was on here earlier. He's
Oh, fun.
yeah, equipping digital. He's equipping a mobilization director. He's was on with Tariq, who's from Pakistan, who's doing our cohort and uses
Amazing.
uses TikTok with clips of him sharing the gospel and is connecting with people through Pakistan, and he's starting to
Love
build a
it.
digital community, and it's just mind blowing to see how
Yeah.
all this stuff is being developed. Where we talk about, hey, this idea we want to release it, we want to contextualize it and see it adapt. And right now we're doing training in 70 people in 30 countries. Is literally we're
Awesome.
equipping. It's crazy.
So
Um,
great. That's awesome.
Now this is interesting. When we met, you were a skeptic
You're
of
going to
of
tell on
this.
me.
Yeah, I mean, you were like, this isn't a na type of thing, but you
No, I
were,
don't mind saying it. Yeah.
yeah, you were like you were you were involved with a nationally recognized Christian tech company. You were very influential in the space. I kind of got introduced. Hey, listen to this guy. He's got some crazy ideas. Now you helped me get plugged in, and you were influential. I would not be in this chair if not for Mindy Caliguire and some of the early influence and connections that she provided for me. So my question is, how did you go from Jeff's crazy to wait, Jeff is crazy, but he's right? Like
Crazy
that's
and
a massive shift.
crazy in all the right ways. Yeah. So just to set some context on my pretty profound resistance to digital church things. I have been part of the spiritual formation movement for a long time and have really been committed to how is Christ formed in people? What does that look like? How do we recover this vision for discipleship, for face to face relationships that support that kind of stuff? So I've always been in the relationships are critical path to transformation, right? So those are the books that I've written. That's the stuff I've done. That's my own journey of healing and health. Okay. So
Hmm.
it was that sort of headspace. And when I was introduced to you, I think my main assumption of what digital church meant was we just need to get more people to watch our show online. Okay. So that's how do we expand the number of people that can watch the thing online, and we'll applaud that as success. So those were the two sort of data points I had moving into this meeting. And you're right. I mean, you just messed with my head in all the best possible ways. And I will say, I got the URL before anybody knew what a URL was. Like I've always been a technophile. Like I've always wanted to know what is the future? Where is technology going? I love that conversation. I did spend 9 years at a tech company. Um, but when I heard you talk about, and you introduced me to some people who I've already heard you name in this broadcast today, who were doing ministry in digital spaces, digital church. We didn't even start talking about metaverse yet. And the thing I came away with was you were equally dead set against let's just go ahead and get as many people to watch a show. And I'm sorry to sound, I'm being intentionally quite reductionist in this. Obviously, no church sits out and tries to create a show, but that was what digital church engagement kind of meant, at least to me at that season. And what I learned from you was, in fact, people were infiltrating, as good missionaries would, into some digital spaces and creating legitimate conversations, legitimate discipleship opportunities, legitimate times to study God's word, legitimate ways to encounter prayer. And I I became convinced because even though we nobody was questioning the physical church experience, of course, the truth for a lot of people is I get in my car, I drive to my church, I walk into the building, I watch the show, I walk out of the building, I leave the building, and people were very isolated going to physical churches, which no one was questioning. And here everyone was questioning digital churches, but you were telling me stories of people with names and conversations and literal engagement that was impacting their discipleship journey.
Yeah.
And I became convinced by the end of that day that if there was any hope for what was actually going to happen in the physical spaces, because that in many ways is a discipleship desert, right? People come and there's a lot of noise and emotion, but discipleship per se is a little bit more uneven or rare at times. And I became convinced by the end of that day that if there was hope for what was going to happen in physical structures, we needed to double down on what was happening in digital spaces because that's where people are right now and help even the physical places understand how to leverage digital for the sake of discipleship and mission. So
Yeah.
yeah, you changed my mind, my friend.
And that's beautiful. It's not consuming a product, but it's getting down to engaging in community and discipleship and looking at digital as a missional opportunity. I was with Pastor Coco, and it's like, she's in a platform that's reaching millions of people. And to be honest, there's maybe one or two, maybe half a dozen, maybe missionaries in that space. And it's like, hey,
Yeah,
if you were going to New York City, couple million people,
right,
and it's
right.
like, hey, you are the only person in this, like, what support is necessary, what coaching, how do you multiply, like, that's not an easy blow off thing to do. Yet a lot of these pioneers that we're working with now, they don't have the funding, they don't have the support, they don't
No.
have
Yeah.
that. They're doing it like completely on their own, and so to have someone like you to see that, even we were having these conversations pre-COVID. This was not a COVID shift. This was a
No, no, no.
um,
No.
coming towards that, and being as
It's
supportive
the
as you are, like that's a beautiful thing. And it's the you've heard me, James 1:22, don't just be hearers of the word,
mm,
digitally do what it says in the physical world, in the IRL, so to speak, but we don't use that term.
hmm.
So like it's putting that to action is so good. But
Yeah.
there's some challenges towards that, right? Because
There are, yeah. And some of them are still not reconciled in my head. Like there's some parts of being discipled. There are some parts of being in community that are very embodied. Had really sad circumstances, but my husband and I just flew up to Chicago this past weekend for a friend's memorial service.
yeah,
And like that's a you can stream it, you can connect with people who are there together. Um, but when people pass, they do that in the body, and
yeah,
there's stuff about the body that matters. And I don't have answers to all that stuff, but it certainly shouldn't be like, oh wait, we'll figure all that out in a black box and then come back with our solution. It's like, no, we gotta keep moving this forward, and experiment and explore how to do that. So I think there are still questions um, about what is the best way to engage people long term for a full discipleship path. But my goodness, we
yeah,
don't stop.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually, it's funny, the experiment and the explore, those are two of the E's, the four E's that we talk about
Mhm.
all the time with the Church Digital: encourage, experiment, explore, and empower. Like, and that's
I
what we
love that.
look at our regional outposts that we're setting up across the country. We had Simon Dirks, who leads our Europe.
Mm,
Actually, Etope is the next call he's going to be on in a couple minutes, and he's sub-Saharan South Africa. But that's it. We're challenging
beautiful.
them to contextualize this,
Hmm.
to encourage
Yeah.
people in those regions that
Yep.
want to do
Yep.
digital, to help them explore the idea of contextualizing, experiment with different ideas, because I don't know anything about sub-Saharan South African digital. And so like
Nope.
they need to figure out how to do that, but encourage people along the way, because it's hard work being a innovator, a disruptor, and pioneers get shot and settlers get rich. And so these guys that are hacking away, have I never told that to you? That's funny.
No.
Oh yeah, that's all the time. We're getting bullets over here. There ain't no money, which is actually the reason why we're doing a 12-hour stream today. theChurch.digital/give.
God bless
Um,
you, man. Yes.
yeah, help us as we're trying to fundraise. We've raised. I'll just do a quick update. $6,200. Our goal was 20,000. 6,200. We're making major dents on that.
That's
thechurch.digital/give.
awesome.
More information on there for that.
Good.
But the heart is that we're trying to pave the way for this next generation. We're trying to pave the way for
Amen.
Pastor Coco to multiply her people to reach into that. We're trying to pave the way for Yatope, in the next generation
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
Yatope,
Yeah.
who's in
Yeah.
in Africa, towards that. What are you doing? You like doing
Take
a
a picture
selfie?
of you. Come on. Yeah, I got to get you on Instagram, dude.
Okay, cool. All about it.
No, it's not a
Uh,
selfie, it's you.
okay. Oh, there you go. Hashtag.
See?
What? I don't even know if we've got a hashtag on this. I don't think we're that smart. But I'm deer fed. You can tag me.
Hashtags are
This.
so 10 years ago.
Yeah. This stream was a last minute deal, man. I just had, maybe it was a week ago, 7 days ago. It's like, you know what? Let's do a stream. And we put this together in a hurry and filled it up. And so I'm so thankful you and the 30 plus other people jumped on this.
Love it.
We ask two questions of everybody. And so I want to ask this for you. Number one, can missions be digital?
Well, I already heard Coco's answer, so I'm going to steal that. It already is. A lot of our team at Soul Care are with the Send. I don't know if you're familiar with what the Send is globally and how they're engaging young, high school, college, and beyond into missions. And some of it is digital, some of it is they're using digital things just to recruit and engage and get people going on a journey. Digital is our world. It's like saying, can you do missions with air?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think air is helpful to missions? It's
I think so. I mean, it'd be hard to do it without. I'm just saying. I mean, maybe somebody
That's
could like
just the
in the
world we're
moon,
in
but
right now.
yeah,
Right, right. That's the world we're in right now. It's like, can missions happen without words or without air or without, of course not. And missions is going to happen in digital spaces. It's going to be furthered in digital spaces. And we'd be idiots to ignore those digital spaces. So, and fund them. Come on, people, fund the digital spaces.
that's funny. Fund the digital spaces. Very, very good. Um, Question two: can the church be digital?
Again, I will say it already is in many ways. And I think that always begs the bigger question of, well, then how are you defining church? And that definition will help you get home on whether or not the church can be digital. But if you look at one of Willard's definitions of the church was a community of people with God at the center. How are we a community of people with God at the center in
Mm,
digital spaces? That's a beautiful question.
wow, that's good right there. How yeah, Mindy Calaguire. Thank you.
Always good
Listen,
to be with you, Jeff.
it is always good. I keep telling my family I want to move to Colorado.
You would be wise to.
No, nobody agrees with me.
Oh,
Nobody.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So they like their
Well, just
warm
come visit
weather.
us at the ranch again. You just come
Yes.
out. It's like mid 50s, bright sunny day today. It's gorgeous, and I can see snow on the mountains, so it's a
Oh
beautiful
my
day.
gosh. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Mindy, thank you for the
Keep up the
time.
good
I
work, friend. Yeah, you're
appreciate
welcome.
your
Keep
help
up the good
here,
work.
and we'll keep in touch. I'm sure. Thank you, Mindy.
Godspeed.
Yep.
Take care.